They say the Appalachia woods never forget what's buried beneath them. In the deep hollows of McCreary County, Kentucky, where fog rolls like spilled milk through crooked trees, locals whisper about a house that shouldn't exist, a house no map dares to show. They call it the burrowed home. Hikers who wander too far from the coal trails claim to hear a chorus of voices whispering in unison, repeating a name that isn't human. Some describe pale silhouettes moving between trees too thin, too tall, their joints bending wrong. Others say they see lanterns glowing from underground windows where no ground should open. For decades, authorities dismissed it all as Appalachian ghost tales. But the stories trace back to something older, an unbroken family line that never left those woods, a bloodline tainted by generations of secrecy, sin, and isolation. In 1943, a census taker vanished while mapping the rural hollows. When his notebook was found months later in a hollowed stump, his last words read, "They live beneath us, the same faces, the same blood, no light, no God." What if that wasn't a myth? What if deep in those woods, beneath centuries of fallen oak and bone, there truly exists a family untouched by time, their faces carved by generations of forbidden blood? Before we go further into the woods, let me ask you something. Hi there, where are you watching from? Are you brave enough to stay till the end? Because after hearing what was found in that house, you'll understand why no one in Appalachia speaks of it anymore. So before we go deeper, subscribe now if you dare to uncover what lies beneath the soil of America's most haunted hills. In 1961, 3 college students from Knoxville, Daniel, Ruth, and Thomas, set out on a photography project to document Appalachian life in forgotten counties. Locals warned them not to enter the hollows beyond Pine Creek. "Ain't nothin' they're worth finding," one gas station owner said, his hands trembling as he filled their tank. But Daniel had heard the stories of a family hidden deep in the woods, untouched by outsiders for over a century. He wanted proof. By sundown, they reached what looked like an overgrown path splitting through ancient oak trees. The woods were silent, too silent. Their voices echoed back distorted, as if the forest was repeating them. Ruth swore she saw shadows moving in rhythm with their steps. When they found the cabin, it wasn't on any map. Half buried in the hillside, it seemed more grown than built walls covered in moss. Windows sealed with mud and animal hide. They knocked. No answer. But Daniel's camera captured something through a crack in the door, a pale face watching them. Eyes cloudy and wide, mouth open but unmoving. Then, a whisper floated from within the cabin, a child's voice saying, "You shouldn't have come here." The next morning, their car was found at the edge of Pine Creek. Doors wide open, cameras shattered, film burned inside the reels. The police called it a misadventure. Locals said the woods took them, fed them to their own blood. Years later, hikers reported hearing screams echoing through the valley, followed by the faint clicking of an old camera shutter. Some even claim the burrowed home still glows faintly on moonless nights, as if the family waits for the next curious soul to step too close. Before we move deeper into the family's secret, tell me in the comments, would you dare to explore those woods at night? And don't forget to subscribe, because what you're about to hear next will make you question whether those 3 ever really disappeared, or became part of something that never dies. For generations, the locals whispered about the Hollowborns, a name spoken only in hushed tones. No one knew where it came from, but every old family in the region swore the Hollowborns were real. Their bloodline had existed in the same hidden valley since before the Civil War, untouched by outsiders, untouched by time. When a retired genealogist named Earl Dunning stumbled upon old county birth records in 1972, he found something chilling: the same 6 surnames repeated for nearly 120 years, all registered under the same isolated township that no longer appeared on modern maps. Even stranger, Many of those names were written in identical handwriting. Across different decades, Earl became obsessed. He followed the paper trail deep into the Appalachian archives until he found one final ledger marked Burrowed Hollow, Do Not Record. Inside were entries of children born to unknown fathers and unlisted mothers, often with the note, "Same blood." Determined to uncover the truth, Earl hiked into the Forbidden Valley with a tape recorder and his old revolver. He never returned, but 2 weeks later, a park ranger found his recorder half buried beside a stream. The final minutes were faint but clear, heavy breathing, footsteps, then a woman's voice whispering, "You shouldn't have come back, Earl. We keep our blood pure." After that, local authorities sealed the area entirely. No search parties were allowed beyond Pine Hollow, and no official reports were released. But to this day, people still find animal bones arranged in perfect human shapes near the edge of those woods. Some say the Hollowborns are still there, breeding in the darkness beneath the roots of the mountain, faces changing, minds decaying, blood forever repeating itself. Before we go deeper, tell me in the comments, do you think they were ever human to begin with? And don't forget to subscribe, because in the next part, we'll uncover what a group of locals found when they tried to dig near that valley, and what screamed back from below. In 1985, construction crews were sent to expand a mining route near the forgotten edges of Pine Hollow. The area had been marked off limits for decades, but a new company claimed ownership of the land. Their goal was simple: clear the soil, extract the coal, and move on. They never made it past the third day. The first team, led by Foreman Henry Lowe, began excavation at dawn. The soil was unusually soft, too soft. Their drills hit something hollow beneath the clay, releasing a wave of air that smelled like rot and copper. Within hours, strange shapes began emerging from the dirt, not stone, not wood, but bone. Piles of small bones fused together unnaturally, forming twisted patterns that resembled human faces. When Henry's men unearthed what appeared to be a wooden door buried under a thick layer of roots, they assumed it was an old cellar. But as they broke through, a low humming sound rose from below, like voices chanting in an ancient, broken rhythm. One worker dropped his lantern down the opening. It didn't hit the ground. Moments later, they heard a child's laughter echo up from the darkness. Then something moved, slowly, wetly. That night, 2 workers went missing. The company halted the dig and sent a retrieval team, only to find the excavation site completely filled in, as if the earth had swallowed itself back up. Their equipment was still there, crushed and twisted into the mud. Henry Lowe quit the next day. Before leaving, he told the sheriff one thing: "We didn't find a mine. We found a mouth." No record of the company exists anymore. No maps show the dig site. But every year since, locals report tremors in that valley and a low rumbling beneath the ground, like something still trying to breathe. Before we descend deeper into what they uncovered, would you dare to stand over that buried opening? If you're still here, hit subscribe, because what's buried beneath the valley isn't dead, it's waiting. A year after the mining company vanished, strange reports began flooding into the local sheriff's office. Residents living miles from Pine Hollow claimed they could hear something at night, a sound like crying, echoing from underground. It wasn't the cry of an animal, it was human, but layered, as if dozens of voices were trapped beneath the soil. The first to record it was a truck driver passing through the old mining road at 2:13 a.m. His dashboard camera caught what sounded like a deep rumbling, followed by muffled shrieks like people pounding on metal doors far below the ground. The tape was sent to the county, but within days it disappeared from the archives. Local pastor Reverend Amos Tilson led a group of volunteers to bless the land. They carried crosses, holy water, and shovels. But when they reached the dig site, it was gone, sealed completely, the ground smooth as if it had never been touched. Only the trees surrounding it were wrong, bent inward, their trunks twisted toward the center of the valley like they were bowing to something beneath. At midnight, the air changed, the fog thickened, and a low moaning began. The ground trembled slightly, then violently. One of the volunteers screamed that he saw hands pushing up from the dirt. Pale, thin, writhing hands. Then came the sound again, not screaming this time, but singing. A chorus of warped, broken voices repeating the same words. "We keep the blood. We keep the blood." Reverend Tilson was never seen again. The others fled, but every one of them was found days later wandering aimlessly through near-by woods, eyes white, skin cold, whispering the same phrase over and over. Now, decades later, no one dares go near that place after dark. The few who do claim they can still hear those voices, faint beneath the ground, waiting to be unearthed once more. Before we move into the next horror buried in that family's blood, tell me in the comments, would you listen to the screams? Or would you run? And don't forget to subscribe, because what's coming next will reveal what those voices really were. By the early 2000s, Pine Hollow had become a ghost region, no tourists, no locals, just the whisper of legends. But in 2004, a documentary crew from Ohio State University arrived, determined to capture the truth behind the Appalachian inbreeding myths. They set up camp near the sealed valley, unaware that the ground they were standing on wasn't as silent as it seemed. Their footage was never released, but fragments of the recordings surfaced online years later. The first clips are harmless: fog, trees, laughter. But then, around 1:47 a.m., the tone changes, the camera shakes, picking up faint humming, that same broken melody the Reverend's men once heard. The forest seems to breathe, the temperature drops suddenly, and the mist thickens. Then, from the darkness, a figure steps into frame, pale, hair matted, eyes sunken deep into its skull. The creature stares directly into the lens, not curious, not afraid, but recognizing. Its lips part, revealing small, uneven teeth, and it whispers a single word that sends one crew member screaming, "Welcome back." Moments later, chaos erupts. The camera captures brief flashes, shapes crawling on all fours, pale arms reaching from the tree line, faces that look human but wrong. Their bones seem bent inward, their movements jerky, like puppets learning to walk again. The footage ends abruptly with the camera falling to the ground, the audio picking up one final sound: children laughing and something dragging across gravel. When authorities searched for the crew weeks later, all they found were tents, flattened and soaked, and a single photograph stuck to a tree trunk. It showed the entire crew standing in front of the cabin. But behind them stood dozens of faces in the fog, faces that hadn't been there when the picture was taken. Now locals whisper that the Hollowborns walk again, returning to the surface each time outsiders disturb the ground that buried their name. Before we uncover their final secret, would you dare to watch that lost footage alone? Don't forget to subscribe. The next part will reveal what lies beneath the Hollowborn blood. In 2016, a private search team funded by a local historian named Margaret Hensley returned to Pine Hollow. Her brother had been one of the missing documentarians from 2004, and she refused to believe the official story that they got lost. Armed with drones, ground-penetrating radar, and thermal scanners, Margaret's crew entered the valley under heavy fog, and what they recorded became the final piece of the Hollowborn mystery. The radar showed faint tunnels beneath the surface, a vast network of chambers stretching for miles. The readings were inconsistent, like something alive was moving through them. When the team began drilling for samples, the machines picked up faint vibrations from below. The pattern wasn't random, it was rhythmic. Heartbeat like. By dusk, the fog thickened into an unnatural wall, muting every sound. One of the crew shouted they'd hit an old wooden structure underground. But when the ground caved in, Margaret was the first to see what lay beneath. A massive chamber, lined with hundreds of skeletal remains, and in the center, a single preserved figure, sitting upright in a crude wooden chair. It looked human, but not entirely. Its skin was thin as parchment, stretched over twisted bones. Its eyes were open-mill, white and unblinking. Around its neck hung a small hand, carved pendant with the initials H.B., Hollowborn blood. Then, every scanner went dark. The crew's lights flickered, and a voice, the same voice from Earl Dunning's lost tape, whispered from the pit. "You shouldn't have come back. The blood never dies." When the fog cleared by morning, only the drones were found, circling the site endlessly until their batteries died. No human remains were recovered. Weeks later, the valley was declared permanently restricted under federal order. The reason? Unstable geological activity. But every October, locals swear they see a faint lantern light flickering beneath the soil, and if you listen closely, a woman's voice calling from below, softly repeating, "We keep the blood, so tell me, would you answer her voice? If you made it this far, subscribe, because some stories never end. They just wait to be heard again."